quick announcement for the PTs only. The motor control class, remember, Suzanne's not here, right? So you haven't got life cycles directly for the motor control class. You want to meet earlier? Okay, so what we'll do then, we'll meet in we're going to do the EMG, right, down in the lab. So the first group, let's say, meet at 1. Is that okay? Whoever that was, rather than meeting at 2:30, okay, we'll meet at 1, 1:20, 1:40, 2. Okay, that's it for the PT students. We're doing our lab on an EMG. We're demonstrating the EMG equipment. We'll hook some of you up, see if we can electrocute yourselves. So we'll be down there, okay? So, is that fair enough? Everybody agree? That'll work for you? What? So you can get out of here earlier?
Did you say the last one was at 1:40?
What? 1, 1:20, 1:40. Yeah, okay. 20 minutes each session. Okay, yeah. Alright, a little matter of an exam, right? Next Monday? Yeah? I haven't made it up yet. I've started. It will cover everything we've done. Every single word that comes down my mouth is fair game. There's not going to be anything in the book that I haven't gone over. So no long fancy words in the book we haven't touched on. We might come back to that material later. I'm going to finish off today talking about these brainstem lesions. We'll quickly go through a diencephalon, cerebellum, basal ganglia, hopefully. I'll stop the exam probably, or material for the exam, probably after cerebellum. We'll go over cerebellum very quickly, look at some lesions, look at some signs and symptoms, and that will be from then on, from then backwards we'll do the exam. When we get to the basal ganglia, I probably won't put that off. Okay? There will be more multiple choice, unfortunately, than I normally make up. Normally, my exam, I hate multiple guess. I want to have all short answer. Much more representative of what you know, I think. But your board's exams are all multiple guess, aren't they? I know TT they are. I know T, yes. All multiple choice. So I always have some multiple choice in there for practice for the boards, but since there's so many students in this class, I just can't grade 90 odd, whatever it is in here, multiple short answer questions. So the majority of this exam, unfortunately, will be multiple guess. Some people like that, some people hate that. I hate it. Because, you've got 25% chance of getting it right. So I don't know how many I'll make up. I don't know, maybe 50 multiple choice. But then there will be some short answer at the end. 1 or 2 pages, 5 or 10, maybe 10 questions, and hope it's very objective, no subjective interpretation, so I can grade it quickly. You say, explain why, blah, blah, blah. If a patient came in with this disease, give me 3 symptoms they'd present with. A, B, C, boom, boom, boom. So I can grade out quickly. Okay? If not, we'll be here until summer waiting to get these exams back. I try to get them back within a couple of days, but it's not really possible now. Probably, I don't know, hopefully a week at the latest I'll have them back to you. Questions about the exam? I don't think you have to draw anything or label anything. It'll be, multiple choice. The multiple choice will not be like board exam multiple choice, unfortunately, because that will take too long. In multiple choice in the boards, that would be like the very first day we had those questions, with like 4 or 5 lines, a mini paragraph, and then answer the results, answer the question from that. That would take much longer. So my multiple choice in this will be more like factual stuff, like, what is this word mean? A patient has this disease, which of these 3 symptoms would not present? Where does this pathway go? A, B, C, D. 1 line, 2 line, quick, dirty facts. Okay? Questions about the exam format? Piece of cake, really. If you know this material, it's easy. If you don't know it, it's hard. But we haven't really done anything we haven't done any rocket science yet, I don't think, in this class. It's just these facts, and hopefully a lot of this you're familiar with, and I'm just sort of refreshing your memory on some of these things. Okay? This is probably not a refresher though, your brainstem regions. So let's go over those again and look at a couple more. Remember, the key to understanding the signs and symptoms of a brainstem region is knowing your neuroanatomy, particularly your cranial nerves. Where do your cranial nerves start? Okay, which part of the brainstem do they start, and what do those cranial nerves do? The first one we looked at was Wallenberg syndrome. This is a bleed, or more often ischemia, an embolism, or thrombus in what artery?
Posterior inferior cerebellar.
Pica, posterior inferior cerebellar artery. That's usually the cause of this characteristic symptom. Okay, this is syndrome. That artery is shown in blue on the top left there, winds itself around the brainstem at the rostral medulla. Well, rostral means what? Upwards towards the nose, in other words, superior in this situation. The top part of the medulla. And it wipes out that grey part here. Okay? And you get these characteristic set of signs and symptoms of Wallenberg's, that you get loss of pain and temperature in the ipsilateral face because you're affecting the trigeminal nuclei. What's a trigeminal nerve do? Two functions. What are they? Major functions. Chewing muscles and face sensation. Okay, so the sensory pathways from the face are going to come in on this side onto this person's right trigeminal nuclei, are going to be blocked, damaged, whatever, by this lesion, and therefore you have ipsilateral loss of sensation from the face, coupled with contralateral body pain temperature loss, because you've damaged the lateral spinothalamic tract. Where does pain and temperature cross from one side of the nervous system to the other? Segmental level. So it's above that, it's above the segmental level, damage to the spinothalamic tract above the segmental level, obviously you're going to have contralateral loss of pain and temperature. Okay? Because the vagal nerve comes out here, you might have autonomic issues as well. But the key, in a board exam, they'll throw in a whole series of signs and symptoms, vagal nerve issues, etc., etc. You might have ataxia because the the inferior cerebellar peduncle might be affected. But you can have that damage. You can have ataxia for many different things. You can have vagal nerve issues on many different diseases, diagnoses, whatever. But the only place you'll get, the only lesion where you'll get this ipsilateral face problem, contralateral body issue, will be right here, really. That's where they. So those are the signs that are characteristic of Wallenberg syndrome. Okay? We looked at Weber's, didn't we? Yeah. Weber's is the posterior cerebral artery problem. Okay? And you can see from the right hand side of the diagram here, it's going to affect that yellow line which is the oculomotor nerve. What does the oculomotor nerve do? Eyeball movement. What else? Pupil size and lens adjustment. And the eyelid. The vagus palpebral muscle that lifts the eyelid. Okay? Does the oculomotor nerve carry parasympathetic or sympathetic supply? Parasympathetic. Okay? So damage to that nerve will reduce the parasympathetic supply to the pupil, and therefore the sympathetic supply will be more dominant. Okay? And therefore you'll see what type of pupil? Dilated. Wide dilated pupil. Unreactive to light, with what you get here, a unilateral oculomotor or ipsilateral oculomotor palsy. The technical term for wide pupil would be mydriasis. That's the technical term for one pupil widely dilated, or whatever. Another term you might see, ansechoria, is unequal pupil sizes. Okay? anisos, Greek means unequal, choria is pupil in Greek. So unequal pupil sizes, but when you've got one, you're referring to one eye is widely dilated, you're going to say mydriasis. Do you know what the pinpoint pupil would be? The opposite of all this? The opposite of mydriasis? Meiosis. That's when you've got a very pinpoint pupil. Obviously the sympathetic system is taken over and the parasympathetic is taken over in this. So if you increase the parasympathetic supply for some reason, or you cut the sympathetic supply, you're going to get a very pinpoint pupil. Alternatively, if you cut the parasympathetic and increase the sympathetic, you get this color, wide pupil. The sympathetic, you're scared, your pupils want to get light in, your eyes will dilate. Okay? So you've got this unilateral oculomotor palsy with Weber's. You get ptosis, you get mydriasis. What kind of strabismus would you might expect to find? External or lateral strabismus, because the medial rectus muscle is paralyzed. The one on the inside. So which muscle moves the eye laterally? Lateral rectus, innervated by what nerve? What cranial nerve moves the eyeball outwards? Abducens. That's okay, that's not damaging this. So that beats the oculomotor nerve. The other characteristic symptom is this corticospinal tract involvement here. Here my corticospinal tract coming down. They're going to cross over where? Medulla. Okay, the bottom medulla, decussation pubis. Most of them cross over, some don't, okay? They cross over and they form the lateral corticospinal tract, the ones that stay on the same side are called the anterior corticospinal tract, okay? But now here they're all bundled into one big mess here, and we slice them all through by this Weber's, this ischemia, whatever, and therefore you get what type of hemiplegia? Ipsilateral contralateral hemiplegia. You could name all the signs of that thing, you could name all your upper motor neuron symptoms you would get, okay, as a result of that. This is often, another term for Weber's syndrome is peduncular syndrome. Peduncular. Because this is where it affects the cerebral crew, or these big things here, these columns are known as the cerebral peduncles. Not the cerebella, but cerebral peduncles. Those big columns up here. And that's what it affects, right there. Okay, those big bulge on the front. That in some texts that's what it's called. It's probably sometimes more commonly called pedunculars and Weber's. You'll see those used interchangeably. Okay. Moving on. Benedict syndrome. Very similar place in the midbrain here. But it's not really a major artery associated. These are just perforating arteries into the brainstem. You get a little clot in one of those arteries and you affect that circle on the left hand side there. So look what's within that circle, within that bleed here, and what do you think the signs and symptoms of Benedict's are going to be? Well, the oculomotor nerves damage for a start, right? It's the same as Weber's. So you're going to have unilateral oculomotor palsy. Okay? So you've got two syndromes here. You've got exactly the same thing. Unilateral oculomotor palsy. So you don't confuse them. You know, external strabismus, pupil dilation, blah, 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 blah. Would you have hemiplegia like you would in Weber's? No. The corticospinal tract is spared. So you would not see any corticospinal tract involvement. You would not see hemiplegia. You would not see Babinski sign. You would not see Hoffman sign, etc., etc., etc. That's not there. Okay? But you would see this thing here. There's two things here labelled on this side. The red nucleus and medial meniscus are affected. They're over here. okay, yellow and pink, whatever. Those are affected by Benedict syndrome. The medial lemniscus carries proprioceptive fibers up from the fasciculus cuneatus and fasciculus facialis. You know when those fibers ended at the nucleus facialis and nucleus cuneatus within the medulla? They then ascended within the medial lemniscus. So the medial lemniscus is carrying sensory fibers up through the midbrain up to the thalamus, and then obviously out to the somatosensory cortex. Okay? All our sensation fibers are going to be going up there, as well as proprioception. We have a pain ascending to be very close to this area. So you're going to get, what do you think, ipsilateral contralateral sensation problems relative to the lesion. Ipsilateral or contralateral? So this is damage in the right side, okay? The right medial lemniscus here. Would I lose proprioception from my right side of my body or my left side of the body?
Left.
Contralateral, ipsilateral? Contralateral, of course. Because that has crossed over at the medulla. This is above the medulla. So this is, that information going through there on the left-hand side has come from the right-hand side of the body. So I'm going to lose right-sided proprioception, etc., etc. The red nucleus. Start of what tract? Cerebrospinal tract. That is important in coordination from the cerebellum, which we'll touch on in a minute or two. The cerebellum sends a lot of information out to the red nucleus and then down the cerebrospinal tract for muscle coordination. Okay? And one of the cerebellar peduncles attaches in here as well. So you're going to see symptoms of cerebellar damage perhaps, because the cerebellum cannot control the body via the red nucleus. So you might see ataxia. Okay? Ataxia. So unilateral oculomotor palsy, but without hemiplegia, but with contralateral proprioception and sensation loss, and maybe ataxia thrown in there. And that would be a classic sign, symptoms of Benedict syndrome. Last one, this is an interesting one. Carino syndrome, the top here. This occurs when the pineal gland or pineal body, this little lump here, has a tumour, pinealoma. You get a tumour within the pineal gland or pineal body. Okay? What does the pineal gland do? Well, in animals, it's important in circadian rhythms and seasonal hormonal rhythms, mating behaviour kind of thing. So we think that's what it does in humans as well. So when the snow melts and the daffodils bloom and you want to feel like you need to mate, it's probably the pineal gland doing that to you. Okay? It's made up of glial cells, astrocytes. And we're not exactly sure how it all works, but seasonal sort of hormonal cycle rhythms we're thinking it's involved in. So you get a tumour in here. I mean, remember, a brain tumour cannot be brain tissue, can it, right? All people who have brain tumours has got nothing to do with the neural tissue, is it? Why not? Why isn't a brain tumour?
Because neural tissue is amitotic.
Because there's no mitosis in neural tissue, is there? So you can't have nerve cells going haywire and making more themselves and making a tumour. A brain tumour is not neural tissue, is it? It's a meningeal cells, it could be some of these glial cells, whatever. It's some supportive cell within the brain that's gone haywire. It's not nerve cells. Okay? and this is a pinealoma, we get these cells go haywire, and what happens, it swells up and pushes on these 4 lumps here. Those 4 lumps, of course, are 4 quadrigemina, superior click line, inferior click line beneath. And beneath there, there's coming out beneath the inferior click line is our trochlear nerve. So this swells up hugely and presses down everything below it. Okay? It interferes with the functions of those things below it. So you'll get problems with the trochlear nerve. Okay? Maybe bilaterally, maybe ipsilaterally, often bilaterally, depends on how that pressure affects those nerves. What is a trochlear nerve? So what the symptoms would be in a patient who's got a damaged trochlear nerve? Yeah, that's not a trochlear nerve. No. You're correct in one thing, but not the trochlear nerve. We'll come back to your example in a minute. Trochlear nerve itself, what does that do? Superior oblique muscle, tilt your eyes down, right? So you get vertical gaze palsy. The patient won't be able to look down easily with the eyeballs. And so often, for example, when you're walking upstairs or walking on even terrain, when they have to look at the floor to see what's down there, they'll use their head more. They'll bend their head down to look at the ground rather than using eyeballs to glance down as you walk. Okay? But the other thing, as you said here, it presses on the superior and inferior colliculi. And therefore you're going to get your reactions to light and sound interfered with. Okay? You will have, for example, your pupil won't constrict when you shine a light on it. You get a fixed pupil. There's nothing to do with the ocular motor nerve, but it's the coordination of that ocular motor nerve pathway to the eyeball goes through the superior colliculi. The superior colliculi, when we talk about these nerves in the crane, when we look at cranial nerves, it's a superior colliculi that tells the ocular motor nerve to shut down the pupil. Okay? There's a little interneuron there, and a tectum here. And we talk about, we look at these cranial nerves, but you'll get an unreactive light, pupil to light, because the visual reactions, visual reflexes are disrupted because you've got this pressure from Parano syndrome on the superior colliculi. Reflexes to sound might be affected as well. Okay, so this vertical gaze palsy and a pupil unreactive to light, characteristics of Parano syndrome. Last one, I haven't really got a diagram of it, but sometimes you'll get bleeds on the anterior side here of the brainstem. All these little perforating arteries, if you get a blockage in the basilar artery or something like that, or hemorrhaging, you can wipe out the front side, the whole front side of the brainstem to get wiped out. Okay? So all this gets destroyed. And on the front of the brainstem are these all our corticospinal and corticobulbar tracts. What do the corticobulbar tracts do? What's a corticobulbar tract for? Cranial nerves, right? It goes to cranial nerves. It contains the upper motor neurons going to our cranial nerves. Okay, so you destroy the corticospinal tract, you destroy the corticobulbar tract, and you end up with what's known as a locked-in syndrome. This is a person who cannot move anything in their body, but they're perfectly okay in terms of cognition, thought processes, memory. They're stuck. They cannot move a muscle. And they think, they're basically a vegetable, they're dead, there's no point in whatever, living. but they're perfectly okay in their brain, they just can't tell you they're okay. They can't move their fingers, they can't move their mouth, they can't speak, can't do anything, but cognitively they're perfect. In some of these cases, they can move their eyes. Why would that be? What nerve controls most of the eyes? Oculomotor, right? It's one of the highest ones up, isn't it? It's number 3. It's right at the top of the brainstem. And that often can be spared because the bleed is lower down, wiping out the rest of the stuff. A very nasty thing, I mean a terrible thing to get. The person is completely normal, they just can't move any muscles. And so they'll sometimes communicate with eye blinking and eye movements. That's the only way they can let you know that they're inside and perfectly okay. Terrible thing. That's a locked-in syndrome, massive destruction of the cortical bulba and corticospinal tracts on the anterior side of the brainstem. Okay, enough of the brainstem. Diencephalon. We're our way up the system here, up the central nervous system. We're now into the brain or cerebrum proper now, so we're not cerebrum, we're into the chunk of the brain above the brainstem. And the first thing you're going to come to is the diencephalon. Remember, the diencephalon comprises the thalamus, the hypothalamus, and not shown in this diagram, the epithalamus, upon the thalamus. So thalamus, hypothalamus, obviously beneath the thalamus, and the epithalamus on top of the thalamus, basically. Put the thalamus first. This green thing, these green 2 football-shaped masses of material either side the third, fourth ventricle. Third ventricle. Okay? Outside of that, or laterally to that, of course, is our internal capsule, and then the basal ganglia. Basal ganglia is blue, internal capsule here is light yellow. The internal capsule is white. What's that? What happens in there? That's the bottleneck. That's all the pathways from the corticospinal and corticobulbar tract converge to get out of the brain, down to the spinal cord, etc., through the internal capsule. The thalamus lies just medial to that. And it's comprised of these 2 paired chunks of material, which are basically 20 functionally separate nuclei. It's a relay station. And those nuclei are grouped into these 5 divisions. We're not going to go all over these now, but we'll come back to some of these. But most importantly for us at the moment, all our sensory information, whatever it is, sight, sound, touch, pressure, proprioception, goes through one of these nuclei. One of these nuclei here. If I lost the left thalamus, would I lose contralateral sensation or ipsilateral sensation? I lose my left thalamus. Do I lose right side of the body or left side of the body? Contralateral, right? Remember, the thalamus is where the second order neuron of all those sensations looked at ends. The third order neuron or projection neuron starts in the thalamus and goes out to the somatosensory cortex. So all our sensations go through the thalamus, essentially, on the way to the cortex. It's a massive relay station between the second and third order neurons. There's also motor tracts go through there. Motor tract from the cerebellum, synapse there, on the way to the cerebrum. It's thought perhaps some crude sensation starts to occur here. I'm not really sure about it. Maybe pain. I think pain might start to crudely sensed in the thalamus. But where does the vast majority of the sensation has to get to before you can perceive it? The somatosensory cortex and the association cortex is next to it. Okay? So, for now, main thing, sensory and motor relay station. Particularly sensory. And when we go through those pathways in detail, we'll mention the lateral genital nuclei, the VPL, the VPM, these things. We'll go over these. But for now, be aware that that's what its major function is a relay station for sense information on the way to the cortex. The hypothalamus, as the name suggests, sits below the thalamus, and it's these coloured things in this diagram. Okay? This is again a cluster of nuclei with specific functions. It sits right above the pituitary gland. Okay? It's right above the pituitary gland. And there's two lobes, that of course the posterior and anterior lobe, connected via the infundibulum. The stalk that connects the hypothalamus to the pituitary gland is called the infundibulum, this thing here. Okay? What does the pituitary gland do? Hormones. This is the master gland, right? In AMP you did the endocrine system, didn't you? Yes? Must have, yeah. So the pituitary gland is the master gland of the body, isn't it? The master gland of the endocrine system. And endocrine, hormones of course control the body hormonally in a slow, long-lasting process. Okay? Put the hormones in the blood, it goes around and we get these hormone changes, etc., etc. This is the link between mind over matter, or brain over body. The link between the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. The hypothalamus controls the pituitary gland. So when you're stressed out and you put on weight, or you lose weight, or you lose hair, or you sweat, or whatever, your body changes because of hormonal changes. This is what it's doing. It's the stress, the cognition, going via the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is the neural part of the body. The pituitary gland is the hormonal part. Now, this is a mind over matter connection here. Hypothalamus controlling the pituitary gland controlling hormonal changes of the body, put on weight, lose weight, whatever. Okay? We'll look at a few of these functions of the hypothalamus. Here are psychosomatic illnesses, yes? Psychosomatic illness, this is the cause of it. You think you're ill, you make yourself ill, and you are ill. Psychosomatic disorders, this is the locus of that effect, the connection between the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland, the hypothalamus also is the master or the control of the autonomic nervous system. The hypothalamus, we talk about this when we get to autonomic nervous system, but the hypothalamus, many fibers come out of the hypothalamus and go to the reticular formation. There's lots of connections between the hypothalamus and reticular formation. The reticular formation is the start of what tract? What extrapyramidal tract? Reticular spinal. Reticular spinal tract. The reticular spinal tract, amongst other things, is the tract that controls the autonomic nervous system. The reticular spinal tract contains the upper motor neurons that go to our pre-ganglionic neurons within the cord, or brainstem. Remember, within the autonomic nervous system, we have a pre-ganglionic neuron and a post-ganglionic neuron, don't we? Those pre-ganglionic neurons are innervated by the reticular spinal tract. So the reticular spinal tract controls the autonomic nervous system, which in turn is controlled by the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus signals reticular formation to do something. Sweat. Make your hair stand on end. Go blotchy in your face when you're about to have an exam, in a practical exam, right? I've seen it all the time, right? People come in your face all blotchy and neck all red. That is your hypothalamus going, oh, I'm scared stiff, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't want to embarrass myself in this practical exam. I'm going to drop this patient, I'm going to fail out of teaching school, blah, blah, blah. And so the hypothalamus goes, whoa, reticular formation, send sends information down to a particular spinal tract, autonomic nerves, and dilate the heck out of the blood vessels. Make yourself look silly, get embarrassed. This is what's doing it for you. Okay, like it or not, that's where it's coming from. Speaking of sweating, the hypothalamus is a regulatory center for body temperature. And of course this controls via the autonomic nerve system the rate of shivering, of sweating, of vasodilation, vasoconstriction, etc., etc. So the temperature control of the body, this is the ultimate sort of site of coordination of that. If you dilate your blood vessels to release heat out the skin. Remember, your extremities do not have a parasympathetic supply, do they? All our organs have a sympathetic and a parasympathetic fighting, antagonistic action, right? But your arms and your legs do not have parasympathetic nerves in them. They only have sympathetic supply. So your smooth muscles around your arteries, the sweat glands, the rector parley muscles that make your hair stand on end, they are all innervated by sympathetic only. So you either increase or decrease sympathetic tone to those muscles or those instrumental muscles to dilate or vasoconstrict those arteries or whatever. Your hair stands on end with sympathetic supply increase, right? Why does your hair stand on end? You get goosebumps when you're scared. Erector parley, trying to make your hair stand on end. Why do you do that? Make yourself look bigger, like a cat. You want to scare the animal away. You're in essence trying to make it look bigger by your hair standing on end. Why do you sweat? You want to make yourself slippery. So you can't get grabbed hold of by that lion, tiger, whatever. That's the thrill. That's a flight and fight response. Your mouth goes dry, right? Different type of saliva. We'll talk about that when we look at autonomic nervous system. A different type of sweat is produced. A thick, nasty kind of sweat is produced. Anyway. Okay, so body temperature regulation, hypothalamus. The posterior hypothalamus, the back of the hypothalamus, increases sympathetic activity. The anterior hypothalamus increases parasympathetic activity. And we'll come back to these when we look at the autonomic nervous system in detail towards the end of the semester. Another thing that hypothalamus does, let's pick out some, just a lot of stuff. I mean, a lot of these, this is out of your text, I think. A lot of the regulatory mechanisms are driven by the hypothalamus. I'm just picking out a few interesting ones here. We're not going to go all over these, just a couple more. The water balance, the osmolarity of the blood, the concentration of our blood, how thick it is controlled by the hypothalamus. And specifically, these little fellas, what are they now? Superoptic nuclei, that green fella. The superoptic nuclei, there they go. These have osmolarity sensors within them. So they are sensing the water, the concentration of your blood as it goes through there. Okay? And they will signal the posterior pituitary lobe via this, what's known as the supraoptico-hypophyseal tract. Supraoptico or optico-hypophyseal tract. This is the tract that sends signals down to the posterior pituitary to change hormonal secretions. Okay, so what it'll do, for example, they detect the increasing osmolarity of the blood, they'll send a signal down to release ADH. It's not showing it. Vasopressin, another term. You've heard of ADH, right? What's that ADH stand for?
Antidiuretic.
anti-diuretic hormone, right? Yeah, remember that? Anti-diuretic hormone, or vasopressin is another term for that. What does a diuretic do for you?
Dehydrates you.
Dehydrates you, makes you pee, right? A diuretic makes you go to the bathroom more. That's what it's for. What's a common... So a lot of your patients, they'll say, I haven't had my water pill yet today. That's what they're talking about. Water pills are diuretic pills. Okay? Lasix. You must have heard of Lasix? You see a lot of patients on Lasix? Very common water pill, as the patient will call it. And this is basically makes you pee, gets rid of more water, hydrates you, or gets rid of water out of the body essentially by increasing the flow of urine. Lasix is a loop diuretic. Do you remember about loop diuretic? It affects the renal loops. What it does in Lasix, what will do, a loop diuretic will allow more reabsorption of sodium into the blood. So you retain more sodium in essence. A loop diuretic makes you retain more sodium. Therefore, water follows sodium, doesn't it? Water will follow sodium back into the blood, as it were, to add more water to the blood. So you have, opposite of that. It prevents you from reabsorbing sodium. That's what it does. I'll get it backwards there. It prevents you from reabsorbing sodium in the kidneys. So sodium goes out to the body. Therefore, water goes out to the body. So your concentration, your urine is more watery, less concentrated. So a diuretic makes you go to the bathroom more, and there's various reasons for doing this. You want to decrease blood volume, for example, in CHF, in congestive heart failure. Many of your patients will be on a diuretic to make them pee for various reasons. The body's way of doing this, is controlled by the anti-diuretic hormone. The anti-diuretic hormone, ADH, stops you peeing. So that it allows more water to be kept in. Okay? It basically decreases the permeability of the distal renal tubules. Have you done this in your NP, how the kidneys work? Yeah. So in essence, more water is reabsorbed back into the body out of the urine, and therefore you retain more water. Urine is more concentrated. Simple as that. And it's the hypothalamus that regulates this anti-diuretic hormone. How much is put into the blood? How much? Lesions, you might end up with polyuria. So a lesion to the hypothalamus, this mechanism, you might end up with polyuria. Obviously that's what? You pee all the time. You want to go to the bathroom all the time. Too much of it. You might see polydipsia. Have you heard of that word?
Increased thirst.
Increased thirst. They want to drink all the time because you're losing urine, you're dehydrated. Polydipsia can be caused by lesions of the hypothalamus. In essence, the thirst center is in the hypothalamus. How much you drink. I'm losing water. I detect I need more water. I retain it in the kidney, and I want to have a beer too, or 3. Whatever. You drink more. Polydipsia. That's my excuse. No, officer, I've got polydipsia. It's a medical condition. Anyway, yeah. So lesions, you can get this polyuria, too much urine, thirst. So the regulation of thirst is the hypothalamus. That's what's controlling it. As is the regulation of hunger, appetite. The center for regulation of how much you eat, how hungry you are, is essentially is the hypothalamus. you do some interesting experiments to animals, you eat them a part of the hypothalamus, certain parts, they'll eat constantly. Just eat all day long if you eat them a certain part. And that would be hyperphagia. Constant swallowing. We want to eat constantly. Alternatively, the opposite of that, if you eat a slightly different part of the hypothalamus animals, they'll never eat. They get anorexia. They'll lose weight. They just don't want to eat. So obviously the center for the regulation of hunger and appetite is within the hypothalamus. There's other centers, obviously, many centers in here. We're not going to go all over, but things like control of the bladder, the digestive tract, gland secretions, it's all these reflexive, low-level control of the body are found within the hypothalamus, and in turn, they control the pituitary gland. The hypothalamus can control the body via the autonomic nervous system, okay, and it can also control the body via the hormonal system. It's a very important regulatory center of many mechanisms in the body. If you screw that up, you're in a mess. The hypothalamus. Last thing about the hypothalamus, just in passing, not really, we'll get to that later, but just note, the optic nerve comes through here. The optic nerve bypasses right past the pituitary gland and the hypothalamus. And the optic chiasma goes past here. Do you know what I mean by the optic chiasma? Yeah? Where the fibers of one side of the optic nerve cross the other side of the brain. Remember that stuff or not? So in other words, obviously we're going to talk about much detail later, but when I'm staring straight ahead, my images from my left eye don't go to my right hand side of the brain. Not all of them. It's not the right hand eye or left eye sees, the left eye doesn't go to the right hand side of the brain. It's this visual field goes to the right hand side. So I'm staring straight ahead. Over here is seen by this part of this eye and this part of this eye. The inside of this eye and the outside of this eye. Those fibers go to the right hemisphere. The left visual field goes to the right hemisphere. The right visual field comprises this part of this eye and this part of this eye. That part of the retina and that part of the retina, that goes to the left cortex. Occipital cortex, back of your head, right? So it's not the left eye goes to the right brain, it's the left visual field. And how you do this is in the optic chiasma. The optic nerve splits there. Half goes one side, half goes the other side. And that is right here in the pituitary gland. The reason I mention this because problems, tumours in the pituitary gland can result in visual deficits, which will be explained when we talk about the optic nerve. Just remember, the optic nerve is right here, the optic chiasma. Okay. Oh, last thing. Hypothalamus, epithalamus. Epithalamus. We talk about thalamus, talk about hypothalamus. Epithalamus, there's not much known about this thing. It comprises habenula. There's three parts to the epithalamus. The habenula is one part. We don't really know much what that does. It's thought to be a link between the limbic system and the reticular formation. That's about all we know about it. So the habenula links the limbic system to the reticular formation. What does the limbic system do for us in general? What's the limbic system for? Have you heard of the limbic system at all? Yeah, you must have heard of it. The emotional brain is sometimes called, and emotions regulated via the limbic system. A very, very old part of the brain, the limbic system. Also, what else? One of the major functions. Let's see. Short-term memories, short-term memories, limbic system. And smell is important in here. Olfactory. But largely, we'll talk about limbic system later, but just for now, the emotional brain controls emotions and short-term memories. If you lose your limbic system, you lose short-term memory and your emotions are messed up. Okay? This is why Alzheimer's patients will trump you sometimes. You've seen Alzheimer's patients, they can have fits of rage, and uncontrollable. And they might have seen Alzheimer's patients lash out occasionally. It's because they've destroyed the limbic system and periventricular grey matter, we'll talk about in deep within the brain, affect the limbic system. And they can't remember what they had for breakfast. They remember what they were wearing at their wedding day 40, 50 years ago, but they can't remember what they had for breakfast. Because they can't lay down short-term memories. They can't get it to long-term because the limbic system is affected. And we'll talk about limbic system later. So, habenula, link between limbic system and reticular formation. We also find within the epithalamus the posterior commissure. It's a posterior commissure part of the brain. What's that for? What do commissural fibers do? Join left and right sides. What's the biggest commissural fibers within the brain? What's that called?
Corpus callosum.
Corpus callosum is the biggest connection between left and right. We have a posterior and anterior commissurals in the brain as well, small compared to the corpus callosum. And of course the last thing was the pineal body. The pineal gland or pineal body is part of the epithalamus. And we talked about that in terms of Parano syndrome, hormonal circadian rhythms, etc., etc. So we don't know a ton about the epithalamus, to be honest. Alright, we do know more about this fellow. The cerebellum means little brain. This sits behind the brainstem, highly convoluted, like a mini brain. It is packed with nerve cells. Very, very, very densely packed. It's estimated that half of all the nerve cells in our body are found within the cerebellum. It's packed with them, very, very densely. This is the cerebellum flattened out. It's squashed, pressed onto the wall here. There's 3 lobes. Anterior, posterior, and the floccular nodular lobe on the bottom. The little blue thing. So you've got the orange, a green, and a blue thing. Posterior, anterior, and floccular nodular lobe. They are connected down the centre by the vermis. The vermis means worms. That's the equivalent of the corpus callosum sort of thing. Okay? The floccular nodule lobe is sometimes called the vestibulocerebellum. That's a functional name for this. This is primarily responsible for vestibular processing, balance. Okay. So there it is. Very, very highly convoluted. Very, very, dense packed grey matter. It's connected, can't see it here, it's connected to the brainstem via 3 pairs of peduncles. Remember we talked about that kind of thing? Cerebellar peduncles, I've shown one of these diagrams here. Inferior, middle and superior cerebellar peduncles, these stalks that attach it to the brainstem. Okay? The cerebellum, via these peduncles, receives